Remodelers and custom builders, what is the most that you can spend on your lead costs? Today, we're going to talk about how to calculate what is the most you can afford to spend on lead flow. So we're going to calculate max cost per lead. Now, this is important because we want to identify as you're running your marketing campaigns, spending money on ads, what the flow looks like. So you're spending, let's say, $5,000 a month on Google ads or Meta ads. And as that traffic comes in, you're converting leads. And then you will see a cost per lead number. And you'll look at that and you'll either think, that's way too high, or wow, those are super cheap. Cost per lead at the end of the day is not the ultimate metric. And we've covered in other videos, we want to look at cost per customer. But this number is helpful because it's a leading indicator. So it's the first step to seeing, am I on the right track, or at least am I under this bar? So if I'm generating $500 leads, you can look at that and go, that's okay, that's way below what I can afford to spend. And it gives you that confidence to see that campaign through and then let the revenue finally start showing up. So we're going to walk through this, and then what I want you to do is take this and run this equation for your own business so you can see what is the most you can afford to spend on a lead. Because the company that can spend the most to acquire a customer, you can outbid everyone in your market. And most people don't do this. So let's dive in. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at our LTV to cost to acquire a customer. So this is what a customer is worth to you, and this is what it costs you to get a customer. And we want this to be minimum 3 to 1. So we're going to work backwards from this number. This means you put $1 into your sales and marketing machine, and it gives you back $3 in gross profit. So we like that trade. Put $1 in, get 3 back. That means $2 of gross profit left over. So we'll do that all day long. This number is more, we love that. But this is the minimum, and that's why we're working off. This is the most we can afford to acquire a customer, and now we're going to work towards what we can spend to spend on leads that we're generating. Okay, so first step is to uncover your lifetime value. And so your lifetime value is going to be your average project size. So we're going to say, in this case, $200,000. And so if this is your average project size, we need to multiply that by your gross margin percentage. And in this case, we're looking at a 30% gross margin. So if we do the math there, we get $60,000. This is our lifetime value. That is what this customer is worth. If we sell a project for $200,000 at a 30% gross margin, this is what's left, $60,000. That's what the customer is worth. Okay, great. Now we want to see, okay, but to make this 3 to 1, we need to see what's the most we can spend. So the equation for you is going to be LTV divided by 3. And so we're going to take $60,000 divided by 3, and that is going to give us $20,000. This is the most that we can spend to acquire a customer, is $20,000. That means if we spent $20,000 just to bring in one project, it's still worth $60,000 to us in gross margin. So we would do $60,000 minus our costs of sales and marketing to acquire, and we'd still have $40,000 in gross profit left over. So that's how we've arrived at this number. Okay, so now we have, this is the most we kind of want to spend to acquire our average customer of $200,000 is $20,000, but let's break it down into leads. So in order to do that, we need to look at our sales funnel, and I think we'll go green since we're talking sales. So if we're looking at your sales and marketing funnel right here, let's say you get 100 leads total. Out of that, 50 of those go to a phone pre-qualification call. Out of that, we book 30 first appointments, and then out of that we end up closing about a third of those into projects. So this would be leads. This is pre-qualification calls. This is first appointment, and this is customers. Okay, so this is our sales funnel. You actually don't need all of these numbers if you want to do a quick math on this. We just need to know what your close rate is from customers back to raw leads. And so we're going to take this 10 and divide into 100, and that is a 10% close rate. And we want to do this off of raw leads, not qualified leads, not leads we want to book an appointment with, just anyone coming into the system. That could be somebody downloading something on your website. It could be somebody that requested a consultation, filled out a contact us form, somebody that subscribed to your newsletter. We want all leads. And so we have a 10% close rate from leads all the way to customers. Okay, so now that we've got that, we can go back to our most we can acquire a customer for, which in this case was $20,000. So we're going to take our $20,000. So if you want to get your max cost per lead, this is the equation. Max cost per lead equals LTV divided by 3. So this times close rate. And so the way that works out is we already did this part, LTV divided by 3, and that was $20,000. And we're going to multiply that by 10%. Feels like one of those math problems where you have to kind of work your way down. You keep saying equals this, equals this. Anyway, so $2,000. That is our max cost per lead. This is the most you can spend on lead costs. You might be looking at that and going, that's a really expensive lead. But again, if we got 10 leads at $2,000, that's $20,000. We're going to close one of them into a $200,000 project, and that is worth $60,000. So the math checks out. Now, the reason we wanted to get to this number is because then when you're running your Google Ads campaign and you're driving traffic to your Google Ads landing page and you're converting at $500 a lead, $700 a lead, you're going, holy cow, these are expensive leads. But if you know, wow, the most I could spend is $2,000 and I'm still below that, then I just need to get more leads through and make sure my close rate holds. So if you get $1,000 leads and you get 10 of those and you know they're moving through the pipeline and you book 3 first appointments, and then you eventually get somebody into design and construction, you're going, well, this is great. I'm actually at half the most I could spend to acquire leads at. So let's run this in another example for a custom builder. And so this would be a common average project size for a remodeler. Again, plug in your own numbers. This is your average project size, your average gross margin. That will get you lifetime value. We're going to divide it by 3. If you don't want to be at 3-to-1, you can always adjust this number. I just recommend this as like a minimum. So of course, if we can get this to 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, awesome. This is just showing us what's the most that we could spend, and still it makes sense. It'll work. Okay, so let's do this for a custom builder. So let's just say average project size, let me come over here, is $1 million. Then we're going to multiply that by average gross margin. So if you're tracking along, this is the same thing we did here, 20%. This is gross margin, and that's going to get you $200,000. So $200,000 is LTV for this custom home builder. So that's what a customer is worth, but now we need to divide by 3. And so if we take $200,000 divided by 3, so LTV divided by 3, it's about 66,000 and some change, but we're going to round for simple math. So this is the most that we can spend to acquire this customer, is about $66,000. Again, take that times a 10% close rate if you have a similar sales funnel to right here, and we're going to take 66 times a 10% close rate, and that is $6,600. So this is the max cost per lead for this custom home builder. And you might be thinking, that's a huge number, $6,600. But again, you can spend this much and still be at a 3-to-1 in terms of what it costs you to acquire that customer and what it's worth to you. Remember, in this instance, a customer is worth $200,000. That's a significant amount of money. Dividing it by 3, 66 is the most we'd want to spend to acquire that customer. That means if we spent 66 and it brings us 200 in gross margin, we've got, what is that, $134,000 in gross margin left over after we subtract our sales and marketing costs. So if you generate leads at $6,600 and you close them at 10%, you're still okay. But that also means if you're running your Google campaign and you're generating $1,000 custom home leads, you're way below the most you can spend. So again, the reason to go through this exercise is kind of to give you peace of mind and see what's the absolute most that I would spend to acquire leads and still know that it works for my business. That's a good spot to be in. So you know that max, and then anything below that is really driving this number up. It's taking that 3-to-1 up to 4-to-1, 5-to-1, 6-to-1, because at this number, 6,600, at this number, 2,000, that gets you 3-to-1 returns. And if you're driving leads at below 2,000 or below 6,600, then you're driving this ratio, which is the engine of your business, up further. So I would encourage you to run this exercise. I know there's quite a few numbers here, but there's really just a few things you need. You need your lifetime value, which is your average project size times your average gross margin, and that gets you LTV. What is a customer worth to you? We're going to divide it by 3. This is the max you would want to spend to acquire the customer. Then, once we have this number, we just want to know what's our close rate. What's our close rate from leads to customers? You don't have to break it down into the entire funnel. You just need to know customers that you acquired and leads at the top. A simple way to do this is how many customers have you closed in the last 12 months and how many leads came into the system in the last 12 months, and that'll give you your close rate. Take LTV divided by 3 and multiply it by your close rate. That's it. Now you know the most you can afford to spend on lead generation in terms of a cost per lead basis. And then you can use that number to evaluate how your different marketing channels are going. And if you have numbers that are a lot higher than this, you might want to take a closer look at those channels. And if you have numbers that are a lot lower than this, there's a good chance that things are going okay. You just want to confirm they're still closing at 10%, because obviously that will change things if this goes to 5% or 2%. But if it stays or goes up, you're in the clear. Keep charging hard on your marketing plan. So this is how you calculate max cost per lead. Walk through the numbers, and if you take the time to go through these steps, I'd love to hear what your answer is for your business in the comments below. Just put either your LTV divided by 3 if you calculated that, but most importantly, if you got to your Max CPL, drop that in the comments below, and we'll see you next time here on Builder Funnel TV.